my name's Red Mole. I've been working here for about 17 years now. I've always been very passionate about my work. I've thought in terms of jewellery. I'm very lucky in this respect. Because I trained as an architect, I felt that the customer had to get value for money, and so I made my work reassuringly robust and unbreakable. Now, recently, I've begun to come away from the solid mass and make cages and flimsy structures. This was quite difficult for me to do, as it goes against the grain of having trained as an architect. But I suddenly realised that you can put anything in a cage, no matter how flimsy, because the cage protects it. This is a new and exciting departure for me. And the grant is going to enable me to explore this new idea fully. I make the cages three-dimensional, like little suitcases made of wire, but that means that you've got depth. And you can make little theatrical scenes with some figures in the foreground and others in the background. They can be seen from all the way around. Now, because of the nature of my work and the fact that I'm going to write an illustrated book, will allow me not only to do drawings to illustrate the book, but to do pieces of narrative jewellery. At the end of my work, when the book is to be published, there will be a collection of bespoke narrative jewels, and because I'm going to go and learn how to do bronze casting, I'm going to make small bronzes which will also illustrate the book. I'm very enthusiastic about this idea because it seems to me that the resulting exhibition will have considerable power because it's not just in one medium. It will go first to Ruffin, and then to Edinburgh, and then to Amsterdam, and then to Barcelona. There have been arranged several venues in the United States where it will end up. Now, this is repoussé work. This is pitch, which is tempered with brick dust. Otherwise it would be too squishy. And you can seize a piece of metal on like that. And I'm making miniature boats now. There's two little boats here, which are going to be earrings presently. 2 moulds in each boat, and supply them with paddles. And they'll be suspended in a stirrup-like arrangement above, which will have the date and my marks all on there, and then just be suspended. The boats will swing because the whole thing will be articulated. And when a lady wears these, it has the most extraordinary effect, especially by candlelight in a restaurant. This is repoussé work, and it's a self-portrait. showing me catching a crawfish and putting it in the bag. Scuba gear on back. I learned how to do repoussé. And the second thing that I made was this. A little box, a little pill box with a crab repoussé on the top. Repoussé is French, meaning to push, and you push the metal down into the pitch and then pummeling it with little chisels like this, which you make yourself, and you push from behind your design, and then when you take it off and clean away the excess pitch, your design looks as though it were under snow. So you seize it onto the pitch again and work and refine the image, possibly even doing some undercuts. As you see here, the pitch supports the metal and prevents it from just bending any old way. You work from back to front again and again until you're satisfied. I trained as an architect and indeed qualified and worked for 2 years in an office, but I found very quickly that it didn't suit me. And so, having by this time been bitten by the jewellery bug, I was faced with a dilemma. Should I continue in a profession, as a sensible person would, or should I go for the jewellery? So I asked my grandfather his advice, and he said, go for it, Paul. And so I did. Meanwhile, I had skills as a scuba diver. Going after the crawfish, which we sold to France at very great profit, and later working on wrecks, recovering non-ferrous metal from underneath the sea around Land's End. This was extraordinary because it was just like a holiday that most people pay for. And the bonus was that about half the year you couldn't get to sea because the tides or the weather were against you. That meant that I had half the year in order to pursue jewellery. And it meant that I didn't have to do jewellery which would sell. I could make anything I wanted, and so I did. And it was the diving, therefore, which paid for, funded, and to a large extent gave me the material for a very great part of my work. When you're a diver and you're down there and it's cold, the fish become your friends. And so I put fish in to my work, and when I do, it's not just a shape. To me, it's heartfelt, friend. I'm making Cerys Matthews wedding rings, don't you know? And that's these now. And she's commissioned me to do it. So now, Early on in my career, I was invited to go to Germany and show my work to some people in Düsseldorf. They were very receptive. And the second time I went, I had devised this idea of a little mole who would be coming up a tunnel with his lantern and shovel. The tunnel was in perspective, and right at the end of the tunnel was a deep blue sapphire. This was the sky at the end of the tunnel. But on the back, there was a sylvan landscape with a little table set out. I was going to put sandwiches on it, but I gave up after the bottle. I just left a bottle on it. And the little path, and this is where the mole will come out and have his lunch before going back to work again. This was an enormous hit in Germany. People just went scatty for it. And so I started to pursue it. More moles, effectively. But because my work is so bound up with my life, pretty soon the mole and myself began to be confused. So I had to think of a name for it. The red comes from, I don't know if you knew, there was a man called Red Adair who used to use explosives to put out oil fires in the United States. And he was the only person who could do this without killing himself. And so that's red. So red mole. That's how it is. And now I don't use the name Paul Preston at all, unless I'm being interviewed by the police or the bank manager. It doesn't exist anymore.